Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Los Angeles-born, Kansas City-based jazz pianist and producer Desmond Mason. He's a fixture in the KC scene, and he talked about his gigs as the world of 2021 opens up. Along with jazz, he's in the hip-hop and soul realms and has a position as the director of music at Good Samaritan Missionary Baptist Church. He's got plenty of music and energy with great stories. Enjoy.
Hey, thanks for taking a minute out to the show. I appreciate it.
Not a problem at all.
Before we begin, it's interesting, the first time that I caught you live, maybe it was the only time, it was back on February 25th of 2020, right before everything shut down.
Wow.
Yeah, you were at Corvino, and I was there with my wife. We may have talked to you afterwards, but that seems like years and years ago. But anyway, I really enjoyed what you were putting together, so I just wanted to catch up with you and talk about where you're playing, what's going on, and kind of your history in jazz.
Sounds good.
Obviously, the world's picking back up. So let's go back to the beginning here. When the pandemic started and everything happened, you had probably a pretty good itinerary that just went away pretty much immediately.
At least 90% of my itinerary went away immediately.
Yeah.
It was a mighty struggle for several months after the pandemic, after the impacts of the pandemic started, the consequences, the clubs shutting down and the venues shutting down and all of that. So
things have obviously picked back up. What have you been doing lately? What's going on with you, with shows, regularity, things that are happening?
Well, since everything is opening back up, it follows that my itinerary has definitely picked back up. I'm playing my first show at the Blue Room in over a year on July 30th, for example. Been playing nights at the Foundation as well on 1823 Highland. Gotten a couple of residencies back at Corvino. I'm playing at a new spot tonight, places like Fogo de Chao, playing music there. The wedding band that I'm playing, called the Diamond Empire Band, the itinerary has picked back up. Yeah, everything is most definitely picking back up, especially those venues that, have music inside, like the Ambassador. Even though the Ambassador for a while was holding music outside because of the pandemic. The schedule is definitely picking back up, and it's been an adjustment too, adjusting all of that, back into the schedule since I've been so used to just staying at home and trying the best that I, could, during the time. So,
how did you artistically survive over the quarantine?
Wow. Assistance from friends, assistance from organizations such as the Midwest Music Foundation. They did those small grants for musicians. I also got a grant from the Charlotte Street Foundation as well. I was one of the lucky ones that got that. Also, I'm a music producer outside of me playing, jazz and whatnot. During the pandemic, I got a couple of nice paying placements. For example, one with Jägermeister that was pretty big. Yeah, so assistance, music production, selling instrumentals for cheaper prices, so I could get them like off the hard drive faster. Doing online concerts as well. At the beginning of the pandemic, especially when people can still kind of gather together, we were doing online concerts instead of doing them, in the venues. Asking for donations. So just a combination of all of those things and the church job being steady as well. They kept me afloat during the pandemic for sure.
So let's go back to your beginnings. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and how music became your life.
I was actually born in Los Angeles, California. Moved to Kansas City in July of 1996, I believe. My first instrument was actually violin. I started violin in elementary school, played that through 6th grade, got pretty good at it. But during that time in orchestra, I always fiddled around on the piano. I was always enamored with that instrument. I even helped tune like my classmates' instruments like during elementary school, and actually helped accompany some of the songs on the played in the orchestra as well on piano. Even though I never took like any lessons, I just kind of picked it up myself a little bit. So after sixth grade, some things happened in my family life. I didn't end up playing music formally again until high school, back in 2005, 2006. I used to go to Palestine Missionary Baptist Church here in the city, and one day I was just fiddling on the piano, and I'll never forget this person named Dr. Nelson Johnson and his wife saw me fiddling on said piano, and it was like, "Hey, you talented? Are you interested in some lessons?" And I said, "Yes, I was very interested in some lessons. I've always been interested in lessons since middle school." But they ended up paying for a year, 2 years of classical lessons at the Conservatory Music and Dance Academy at UMKC. So I studied under Scott Anthony for a couple of years, classical music training, recitals, etc. And then I had expressed interest in jazz as well. The Doctors Johnson also got me into jazz camp with Bobby Watson back during that time. I think it was either right before I entered college. No, yeah, I think it may have been right before I entered college. Joe Cartwright was the piano instructor during said camp. As you could imagine, I was really wet behind the ears during that time. I improved a lot during the camp, you know, and I never forget it. Bobby Watson saw how hard I was working, how interested I was, and he let me borrow a book called the Jazz Piano Book by Mark Levine. So I borrowed it for that weekend, and I improved even a lot during those 2 or 3 days I was there on campus. And he ended up autographing it for me, and he told me to keep it. And the autograph said, "Keep studying the science." After that, I went to the appendix of said book where they have, you know, all of the great jazz recordings that you should listen to as a improving and up and coming pianist. I was in college at UMKC at that time, and what I would do is I would just look up all of those recordings, go to the library, check out every CD that I could, burn them onto my laptop, and I just kind of immersed myself into the craft. So after that jazz camp, it's just really been a solo journey, so to speak, as far as, you know, improving on piano. I'm mostly self-taught. I listened to all those recordings. I went through the book. You know, I learned the theory. I also bought the jazz theory book by the same author as well. Went through that book, learned as much theory and as much as I possibly could. And, you know, fast forward to today, and after a lot of hard work, I'm here.
What exactly brought you from LA to Kansas City?
My grandmother ended up wanting to pass away here rather than LA. She had cancer and didn't tell the family. We moved here in 1996. She ended up dying in 1999. So that's what brought us here. And in many ways, I'm thankful. So,
speaking of, what do you like the best about Kansas City?
How close-knit the musician community is, the ease of getting work here, the ease of living here, the barbecue, most definitely, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Kansas City Royals. There's a lot to love about Kansas City. I love the current neighborhood that I'm living in. You know, I'm living in the Westport neighborhood now, and it's been good. So what is there not to like about Kansas City? Nice Midwest town, very easy living.
Beautiful. What was the first live jazz show you saw that really blew you away?
That's a tough question. I think it's a tie, like, between two shows. One was back at jazz camp. I believe as a field trip in the evening, all the campers went to see the Louis Neal Big Band at the Blue Room, and this is over a decade ago. But I was definitely blown away by that show. You know, definitely as a up and coming, you know, pianist that was just learning jazz. You know, all the arrangements and how exciting it was. You know, big band music is just exciting to me in general. But that definitely left an imprint on me. Also seeing seen Stephon Harris and Blackout at UMKC once. That show definitely blew me away as well. Stephon Harris is just a monster on bikes. His ear is impeccable. Never seems like, he messes up improvisations or anything. It just sounds like everything that he's playing is just like absolutely correct just for that moment. That show definitely blew me away too. But there have been plenty of other shows as well that definitely have imprinted on me as well. But those are the two that, I think of right away that like truly blew me away and truly like left a mark on my development and whatnot.
Who would you cite as musical influences, jazz-wise? Who's really swayed you and influenced the way you perform?
Number one is definitely Bill Evans, the pianist. Bill Evans was one of the two reasons why I fell in love with jazz in the first place. His Waltz for Debbie album, the live performance album at Village Vanguard, I believe it was the first one that he recorded there. That was the first jazz album that I listened to religiously on repeat. So definitely Bill Evans. Duke Ellington, which is the other composer, pianist that got me into jazz as well. I never forget listening to a big band compilation and listening to one of the takes of his Just Squeeze Me But Don't Tease Me. I never forget that moment. How the rhythm section was rocking and how the horns were rocking, on that particular take. And, I just listened to that one day and I said, I want to play music like that for the rest of my life. Bill Evans, Duke Ellington, McCoy Tyner, most definitely with the John Coltrane Quartet, solo albums, trio albums, etc. Herbie Hancock, and Mulgrew Miller. I think those might be my top five, with Bill Evans being number one by far. Heavily influenced by Bill Evans, especially with the left-hand chords and the phrasing and whatnot. So, yeah, those are definitely my top five influences.
What do you like the best about being a professional musician?
I love the fact that I'm living out my purpose. I've always believed that my purpose is to provide music to the world that moves people in a positive way. And being a professional musician, making a living, living out your purpose, nothing beats it, whether you have the good or the bad, because, there's a lot of great and there's a lot of bad in the music industry, as you know, as a whole. And just living out your purpose, not feeling like you're working at a job that you hate. I love music, so I love my profession, and just living that out is the best thing about it.
COVID is slowing down, live shows are ramping up. What do you hope we all realize about the power of live music when we get back in earnest, like both musician and the audience?
For the audience, I hope the audience appreciates live music more. I hope that, not trying to sound like a snob here, I hope that they put their cell phones away and stop talking like for a little bit and actually listen to and enjoy the music, because the pandemic, has proven that all of that can be taken away. And then you're really stuck at home, not spending time with the people that you love and not having an opportunity to, partake in the magic of the moment. So, to the audience, I would just tell them to embrace the moment a lot more. For the musician, diversify your portfolio. We really got to diversify the ways that, we earn a living, especially as professional musicians, we got to realize that there is more to the profession than just live performance. Teach more, compose more music like on your own and put more of that out. So, you have another stream of income from people buying your music and streaming your music. Learning how to use technologies, such as Zoom and other video and audio applications to throw home concerts or private concerts and whatnot when you can't live perform. For the musicians, again, it's just all about, diversifying the way that you go about things. If you're a musician that has income that depends mostly on live performance, like you just got to find different ways, to earn and, to make a living. So
If you could see a dream show in Kansas City, back in the heyday, what musician would you like to see live?
Count Basie Orchestra with Frank Sinatra. That is easy.
Right on.
Oh my goodness. The Sinatra at the Sands album, backed by Count Basie and arranged by Quincy Jones, like that's one of my favorite albums to really listen to right now. So I would love to see that. And a close second would probably be the quintet featuring Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, Bud Powell, Charles Mingus, and Max Roach. Definitely a powerhouse group, and that album is also one of my favorites as well. So, yeah, definitely two of my dream concerts if I were just going by, past musicians that I love. So
everyone has an idea or perception of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you're living your life. Who do you think you are?
I think I'm just a man out here doing the best that he can for his daughter while living out his purpose. And my purpose, again, I believe with my whole heart, it's to make music that moves people in a positive way. And as long as I'm doing that and taking care of my daughter and my family, I'm good. That's how I see myself, and I just hope that others see me the same way.
Desmond, hey, thank you for taking some time out for Neon Jazz, man. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. See you out and about.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in L.A., Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Desmond for his time and energy making Kansas City a great place to be. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.